Hello and welcome back to Mangastorian, the channel where I, Benny, also known as the Mangastorian, sit here and talk about the latest manga that I've been reading or an anime that I've been watching. Today we're going to continue my coverage of One Piece, which I've turned into a pseudo-reading club. You see, if this is your first time on the channel, I started reading One Piece about half a year ago at this point, and I'm giving you my reactions to reading various chapters and then watching the same episodes on the anime. So what that basically means is I'm reading the manga, not watching the anime as thoroughly as many of you are. I've seen 0 filler arcs, and overall, what I find important, I write down in my notes, and that's primarily what I talk about. It doesn't mean that I missed your favorite part, it just means that I didn't write a note about it. Now, a lot of you are going to hate me today, because I wrote almost no notes. It's not that chapters 604 to 630 are unimportant. It's not that nothing cool, epic, or whatever happened. It's that I read this 3 weeks ago and then went on vacation. So this is gonna be true. Did I remember your favorite moment? Because normally I have like 3 pages of notes where I write down everything that I thought might be an important moment to try and remind myself. I have 4 sentences. 4. That's all I managed to write down. I read this. So if you don't know, I finally went on my first vacation in like 10 years. I did a week in London and I did a week in Greece. So I was out of the country doing a whole bunch of cool stuff, and I loaded almost 200 chapters of One Piece. My plan was to read chapters 604 to 800. I was gonna come home and we were gonna bang out like 6 videos. I was gonna write notes the whole way through. It was gonna be an epic like backlog of videos so that I could then focus on Dragon Ball and Black Clover and One Punch Man, which I still need to do. But you know what happened? You ever go on like a vacation where you've got some downtime and you're like, I'm gonna load up all my movies, I'm gonna buy these 3 video games. I loaded up 200 chapters of One Piece. I downloaded the entire series of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. I downloaded a show called Lucky Hank. I downloaded Pikmin 4. I don't know how bored I thought I was going to be on this vacation, but all I managed to do was watch 6 episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam, Witch of Mercury, and read 30 chapters of One Piece. Now, before we get into this, I do got to do a shout out to a guy named Connor in London. So, one cool thing, I got to tell this story. I'm wandering around London and I end up at the Camden Market. And if you've never been to the Camden Market, it's like, in America, we would call it a flea market kind of a thing. There's just stalls of shops everywhere, and in the middle is like a shopping center. Trust me, don't worry, this story is going to involve One Piece in a minute. I'm wandering through Camden Market, and in there's a Bandai Namco store. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. They've got all kinds of Bandai Namco products there, which includes One Piece products. So I saw a bunch of statues that I wanted to buy, but I was currently on London with 2 more weeks of my vacation, so we're gonna work on getting those ordered later. But in the back of the store was the One Piece card game central hub. I've got some photos that I'm gonna throw up. Kevin, if you better ask me to give you those photos. They had every deck, every pack of cards, and a guy named Connor. This guy, he threw me for a loop. I'm looking at the cards and I'm explaining some of them to my buddy who's there, who has like almost no, he's the one that liked One Piece. The other guy didn't. So we're talking about One Piece, talking about the characters, and I keep stopping him because he's trying to spoil like way later stuff for me. And I'm like, nope. Haven't gone past time skip. I'm at time skip. And this guy with a Bandai Namco shirt comes up behind me and he just kind of looks over and he goes, you know, it's really sad that Netflix spoiled Ace's death for you. And I'm like, huh? And he's the guy that runs the One Piece Card Central in the middle of London. He then proceeded to do a tutorial and teach me and my other friend, whose name was also Connor, but I haven't told you that because I thought it might be confusing, but me and this other Connor to play the One Piece card game. So instead of reading One Piece for the rest of my trip in London, every night, me and Connor were playing the One Piece card game and doing shots as damage. So I would damage him and he would do a shot and flip the card. So I'm really bad at the One Piece card game because I guarantee you we started making up rules. But I also wanted to say, if you're in the Camden Markets in London, go say hi to Connor over at the One Piece Card Game Central, because it's also a very awesome setup. It really is. It's really cool. And I don't know half the characters on those decks. Let's get over to the actual chapters that I read and what I remembered about them. Okay, so we're doing Fishman Island now. Finally. Funny side note, I was literally just watching Post Enies Lobby with my wife. If you're unaware, my wife has been watching One Piece, so I keep jumping in and out of things. She also agrees the saddest moment in the entire show is Robin's I want to live moment and backstory. So I'm glad that I married her and we don't have to divorce over One Piece. I was upstairs and I forgot that at Post Enies Lobby, they're like, we're going to Fishman Island. And I looked at her and I'm like, oh my God, they are not. So we're finally going to Fishman Island. We just did the recap. Everyone came back in. We had everyone show up. They all kind of showed up, a lot of their power-ups. But as this is going to be a bit of a shorter recap, because this is literally off of my memory, I read these 30 chapters on the way to London at the start of the trip. So I wrote down some notes. It didn't save them all, is more what the actual issue is, because I typed them through Discord as I'm on a plane. It normally sends that stuff when I land, so it kind of goes over, but it didn't this time. So I'm missing like all my initial notes up to Wimpy and Luffy getting to the grave, apparently. Oh, here's a couple of them. Yeah, I didn't send 90% of my notes. So I'm not incompetent at my job. I was taking the notes. So we're starting at the very beginning. We did have the opening with the discovery that Goldie Roger is the guy who had the straw hat that has now gone to Shanks that then got passed over to Luffy. I thought that was a cool revelation, but it doesn't really mean that much, at least at this point in the story. I don't know if it will eventually, but it does kind of symbolize that Luffy's supposed to be taking the crown, which I assume is the straw hat, kind of like the crown passing between the predecessors and the new king of the pirates and stuff like that. I did enjoy that. I did like this piece, and I'm pretty sure that the Vegapunk arc that everyone complains about is where I'm going to find out more about this. Kuma guarded the ship. Like, he was the reason they never lost the Sunny. That was a cool thing. And he was done the moment that his last order was to guard the Sunny until Frankie arrived, and then he proceeded to guard the Sunny. But he was to guard the Sunny until a member of the Straw Hats arrived. That was a cool thing. I know we also had Ugly Sanji, and we had like somebody else. There was like 3 of them guarding it, but they stated that it was primarily Kuma who's the one who like made it happen and had guarded it. That was his last order as a human being. So I'm really interested as to what's going on with Kuma. I do know there's like a Vegapunk angle to it, because they said that a lot of his stuff was done by Vegapunk. They just mentioned Vegapunk in the Post Enies Lobby. I know that Frankie went to Vegapunk's island. I know it's an arc in the story, so I'm assuming we're going to find out about Kuma soon-ish. I mean, soon-ish. Just like, we're going to go right to Fishman Island, Luffy. Straight there. I then wrote, holy hell, the upgrades to Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy. I don't remember exactly if they did stuff on the island or if they did stuff going under the water where they had to get into the bubbles and do like this cool, like they were doing, so the bubble seals around the ship was a cool idea so they can go underwater, but then they can take the bubbles and go out further and do even more cool stuff. I don't remember exactly where these upgrades are happening, but I do remember being impressed by them. There was also the introduction of the new Fishman gang by, I'm assuming it's pronounced Hody or Hootie. Dan's gonna look it up for me. Hody? Okay. My background editor has said that he thinks it's Hody, so we're gonna go with that. If it's wrong, I apologize. You'll tell me in the comments, I'm sure. I believe it was Hody was introduced there. If it wasn't Hody at that exact moment, it was another one of the Fishman gang areas, because we also learn about Vanderdeck. I want to call him Vanderbeek, but that's not right at all. Vanderdecken. We get to see all the underwater sea monsters and stuff like that. The battle eventually, like, they all learn their power-ups. They go out there. If you're wondering, this is going to be a faster recap than normal because I'm literally working off pretty much raw memory from 3 weeks ago. So, again, I apologize. I am most likely going to skip your favorite part just because I'm trying to remember. But Luffy's bubble pops. They all hit out in Zoro's bubble and came back in. And then they had to battle against the giant Kraken, which was tamed by Luffy? I want to say it was Luffy that tamed it. That was pretty cool, though. Luffy taming the Kraken and then using it to get the ship and Luffy through everything. Oh, no, that wasn't Hody. Hold on. Hody comes in later. This is the guy that can turn into, like, sand. He can, like, turn into sand or mud or something. Because Hody arrives later. Caribou. Yeah, that's him. But Caribou, he was the pirate, not Hody. My bad about that. I had them mixed up. Hody shows up later. Caribou's the guy. They've got him locked in a barrel because he can turn into like mud or something like that. I was kind of looking at him as Muddy Guy, but yeah, it's Caribou is his actual name. Anyway, they ride the Kraken. They end up at Fishman Island. Now, a couple things happen at Fishman Island. This is more what I remember more accurately because this was the important bit of the story. First off, Jinbei is Luffy's friend, established officially, and he's waiting for Luffy. But Luffy doesn't get that message right away. I don't think he actually gets it ever. I think he just ends up in the forest and meets up with Jinbei, and everyone else gets the message. Hody is like the leader of so there's Vanderdecken, which is a legendary pirate, but this is like Vanderdecken 9. He's the descendant, and he has the ability to throw stuff from anywhere, and it will go to whatever he last touched. So that guy's important. Hody is like trying to lead a rebellion against what the Fishman Island is trying to do. And then we also still have Caribou being like a muddy man in a barrel. Now, first off, Sanji found the all blue. I don't know if this is the official all blue, but Sanji acts like it's the all blue, which I thought was just a great resolution. We're starting to wrap up some of these plots, even if we have like another 600 chapters. Sanji realizes he found the all blue, the convening area of the North Blue, East Blue, South Blue, and West Blue. I can't talk apparently, but he finds the all blue officially. He also gets into the first time I'm annoyed by Sanji's attitude. He sees the mermaids nosebleed. Sanji's now going to die from losing blood. So then he gets better and then doesn't care and gets nosebleed. And then now he's going to die. And it's like a repeat thing where Sanji's just constantly incapacitated by the sheer beauty of the mermaids and the mermaid princess eventually. She's not a mermaid princess. The princess of the... Her name's Wimpy. It's not Wimpy. It's like... I got to look her up now. Oh my God. Fun fact. If you Google One Piece Wimpy, Shirahoshi, top thing, comes straight up. This arc is interesting. I wasn't nearly as hooked into the Fishman Island story as I thought I was going to be, because I feel like this is one of those arcs that's all about expanding on the universe of One Piece, which is interesting, it is. But I think I was expecting more, because we came from such crazy highs of going out of the big war and then going into post-war and then all the training, and now we're kind of back to kind of like chill. Because we're just learning about the island. We learned about the queen. We learned that she wanted to bring the Fishman Island up to Sabaody Arc, and that they were going to like try to work with the Celestial Dragons, that she was trying to get everyone teamed up. We learn about Fisher Tiger, Arlong, and Jinbei's history and how they were these great pirates. What was the name of the kid? There was a kid that was with them, Koala? Yeah, Koala, this girl that can't stop smiling because she doesn't want to be punished. That whole backstory was sad. I really enjoyed that one. The whole thing about her, then Fisher Tiger getting killed and refusing the blood of the humans to get out of it, which caused Arlong to go on his rampage, which eventually would lead to Nami, and Jinbei takes the blame for it because he let Arlong go do his thing so that he could become one of the 7 warlords of the sea. That whole backstory was great. The queens, I found the queens to be a little over the top, where she was just kind of like, sign this! Like, I get the idea was that they're trying to merge the Fishman Island people with the humans, but just the nature in which the queen was going about it, at least in the manga, felt very heavy-handed. I feel like there'd be a lot more. I loved Luffy meeting Shirahoshi, calling her Wimpy, dubbing her that. She's crying every time he's mean to her. That was funny. I really enjoyed that whole thing. But overall, the plot just, I didn't find it as engaging as a lot of the other One Piece portions, just because it really seemed to be all about explaining the Fishman Island, from the king to his sons, to the princess, to the queen, and it felt more about them than usual, because if we go all the way back to Skypiea had a very similar way of telling its story, because it had a lot to explain. Because Skypiea was brand new, an island in the sky, Inaru, and all these characters. I got that vibe for Fishman Island because it was spending so much time trying to let you know what's going on. But unlike Skypiea, Fishman Island felt important because Jinbei's important. Fisher Tiger's story was important. Arlong is key to the main plot. So it felt like I really had to follow what's going on, while at the same time, stuff's happening, but not really. Like, the nature of what's happening at the moment is that all of our characters are overpowered. So there's no real fights or challenges or things going on. So when they get confronted with something, it's immediately defeated so we can show off how strong they've all gotten. So it's really just this world building episode, these last like 30 chapters that I read. Wasn't terrible, but it didn't stay with me in the way that a lot of One Piece has up to this point. And I think it's almost telling that my notes didn't go through and I'm having problems remembering key aspects of the story, while normally there are key points that I can bring up and be like, no, this moment I really, really enjoyed. This moment stands out to me. Because normally stuff like that does stay with me better, but when it comes to Fishman Island, it's more of a broad stroke as to what actually happened. Shirahoshi can control the Neptunia monsters, but doesn't quite know how to do it. Vanderdecken is trying to marry her, even though it was weird because he was trying to marry a 6-year-old. But then we discovered that it was because of her power. So I was like, okay, doesn't make it better, but at least your motivations aren't as creepy as we thought it was. So that's kind of how I feel about Fishman Island. That's why I said today's episode is going to be a bit weird, because I don't have notes and it didn't stick with me in the way that a lot of it has. Now, I do feel Fishman Island goes to chapter 655, if I remember what I remember reading. So I have chapter 630 to 655. I think at this point, it's really going to start to stick with me, because I left it off at the point where Hody comes up and is burning all of the signatures from the Queen, and he's burning the contract from the Celestial Dragon, and that's the moment Luffy's like, we're getting involved directly as opposed to kind of being passerbys in this story. So that was part of the reason I chose to stop there, because I'm like, I don't really have notes for the earlier parts of this. So let's just do this episode here. I'll tell you the story about London, and I'll tell you the story about what I do remember. And then we can focus in on what I think is going to be the really strong aspects of this story, which is what I think is coming up. So I apologize if you guys are looking for more, and I apologize to our editor, Kevin, because he's probably got to butcher all kinds of stuff of me Googling names. Luckily, I seem to remember quite a bit. It's just the names seem to miss me on this one. But I'm excited for Jinbei. I also want to know, when is Jinbei just going to join? I was told, be disappointed. So... So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the episode. Next week, we'll be back to normal because I'm now back at home. I'm going to read the next 20 chapters. 20 chapters. We're going to have the end of Fishman Island. I'll have all the appropriate notes. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.